So welcome everybody. My thought for you today is I was spontaneously reminded of a story that I don't think that I've read since college, and it came out of nowhere in my head, this story that's from the Lotus Sutra. So it's a Buddhist text, but the story is about a burning house. You can see the relevance, right? And the story goes basically that there's a very rich man, and that he has this sprawling mansion, this big, giant mansion that has had many additions put onto it, and it's full of many things, and hundreds of people live there, and his family is there. But the building itself is old and decrepit, and the walls are sort of rotting, and everything is sort of falling apart. But everybody still is there, and they're enjoying the wealth. And the deal with this house is that there's only one gate. So it's this giant property, or it's this giant estate, but there's only one gate to get in or out. And so one day there's a fire that spontaneously happens on all sides of this building. So this rotting house is now on fire. And the rich man who owns the house is able to get out, and he's standing outside, and he says, "Oh my God," he says, "the house is on fire, and my children, my sons are inside, and they don't even know that the house is on fire. And how can I get them out? They don't even realize, because they're too busy playing, right? The fire is closing in, but they don't realize." And so he's wondering, how am I going to get them out? And he thinks to himself, well, maybe I could run in there and I could pick them up and take them out myself, because, I've got the strength to do that. But he realizes that he's not going to be able to carry all of them. And there's only one gate, that they can't all escape at once. And so he comes up with all of these different ideas in his head and realizes that none of them are going to work. And meanwhile, the house is still burning, and he's calling out to his sons. He says, "Hey, the house is on fire. Get out, get out. You have to come out." And they pay no attention because they're too busy playing. And so he decides that the way to get them out, and then in Buddhism, they call this expedient means, is he says to them, if you come out, I have these wonderful toys that you've always wanted. I have these wonderful things that you have always craved. And if you come out, you can have them. I'll give you all of it. I'll give you everything you've ever wanted if you just come out of the house. And so the children finally look up, and they're like, really? And they come out of the house on their own, and he offers them, of course, these toys, which are metaphors for, the teachings of Buddhism, basically. They're the spiritual teachings, and that's what they're gifted with. And that's sort of the end of the story. But the moral of it is, or the symbology is, that burning house is the world that we live in. That burning house is the mind that is so absorbed in its own ideas of comfort, its own ideas of truth, its own ideas of the way that things are. And it's the way that we get absorbed in that to the point that we can't see what's happening around us. So the idea is that this is us, that we're the children, and we're so invested in our lives the way that they are, comfortable with what we've always believed to be true, that the house is on fire and we don't even notice. And so the spiritual path is the one that says that in order to get out of that house, there's only one gate. Right? That's still the truth. There's only one gate. There's only one truth. There's many ways to get there, but there's only one. So to get out of that house is to be willing to let go of everything that you have assumed to be true since you were born. It's the willingness to take everything that you assume has to stay present and steady and the same in order for you to exist, in order for you to be who you are, in order for you to be happy, in order for you to be whatever it is that you think that you want to be. You have to be willing to look at it and rip it up by its roots, because that's the one gate in and out of that burning house. So we're here, and we're in, turbulent times. We're always in turbulent times. But it occurred to me, and I think this is what sparked it in my memory, is that while you see that there's, physical things burning, there's physical things that are in the process of being destroyed, is that those fires aren't the things to be scared of, because those are the fires that are waking you up. Those are the fires that are reminding you that the house is burning, and it's been burning the whole time. And what's going to convince you to get up and step out of it? Even a little bit, one step. And it gets down to that layer of, can I look at things that I have always assumed to be true and possibly think to myself that maybe it's not? It doesn't mean that everything is wrong, or that you've been, doing life incorrectly. But it means that you have a chance to realize when there is something bigger to be gained, when there is something more important to be gained. And the only way to do it, the one gate, is to go back to that root of what is really true. And it means abandoning everything that you thought had to be the same. So can you do that? That's our practice. And interwoven into that are all the things that we all crave, right? The thing that's going to call you out. Is it going to be acceptance? Is it going to be justice? Is it going to be equality? Is it going to be love? Is it going to be this? Is it going to be that? Use whatever flag you need. Use whatever promise is going to get you to be willing to abandon your deepest attachments to what you think has to stay the same. That's the practice. At its deepest, most core level, that's always the practice. And every teaching comes back to there being this idea of tapas. Always brings us back to this idea that there's fire that is going to change what you thought was real, what you thought was true. Always. So part of this practice is letting go of, or at least standing next to the fear that if things change, I can't stay the same. Hallelujah. Step out of the burning house. That's our practice. So comfortable seat if you're not there already. It's funny to me that this story came up into my, bubbling out of my subconscious. I haven't read it since college, so many years ago. Eyes closed. Let yourself go into your breath. And I almost want you to just embrace that feeling of when something is crumbling and it's about to completely disappear and it's going to be out of your reach in just a second. I want you to actually connect to that feeling at the end of the exhale, that feeling that maybe something is being lost. And don't run from it. Because that moment where you are ready to cling so hard because something is about to be lost, that is attachment. That is the thing that we say is the root of our suffering. The harder you cling in that moment, the more you know that the house is burning and you're not trying to get out. So can you sit with that feeling that things are about to end? And then breathe really deep. Don't run from it. Don't change it. Breathe and remind yourself that, yeah, it's going to fall away. And what is there beyond that burning house is everything that you've ever truly desired, truly craved. But it's not attached to the house. Deep, deep breaths. Willing to abandon everything that you thought you knew to be true about yourself, about the world. Let it go. And be literally the breath that you are breathing. The idea is suggestion, asking for acceptance, starts with that. If you are empty of filters, you can accept a reality that is not your own. An experience that you haven't lived, but is still true. One more deep breath. Empty. And then bring the hands to the heart center, because it's only from that moment when you've let go of everything that you thought needed to stay the same that you can step forward. Open with the sound of Om. Deep breath in. Let the eyes float open. Nice, you guys. Rub your palms together for a moment before you take them away from your heart. Rub faster. Again, I said this earlier last week or at the end of last week. If your hands have not yet ignited, you're not going fast enough. Faster, 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 faster. This is your prana. Faster, faster, faster. Ignite it. Good. And then steady the palms at your heart. Pause just for a moment. Feel how that energy radiates. Ignite your prana. Don't waste it trying to keep a burning house alive. Deep breath in. Deep breath out. And let the hands go. Come forward to hands and knees. Move through some cat and cow, and whatever emotions seem like they are now riled up. I hope I did poke something. Put it into your cat-cow. Don't let it sit there as something that you're going to say, well, I'm going to practice ignore that. I'll get back to that later. Don't get back to it later. Let it move through your cat and cow, through every inhale, every exhale. Good. Nice, you guys. Move just a little bit faster. I sip my fancy water through a straw. Good, and then come back to stillness, please. So neutral spine, spread your fingers wide, push into your hands, tuck your toes under if they're not already. And then I want you to really draw your low ribs in. So you're really getting into the muscles of the upper back. So draw the low ribs in, hug your arms towards each other. And then with the toes tucked, I want you to lift your knees up off the floor just an inch or so. So your armpits are over top of your wrist. You gotta move your weight forward just a little bit. And then hover those knees up off of the floor. Good. Pull the knees forward just a little bit and push your tail back. Yep, so it's almost like you're hovering and trying to push your hips back towards your heels. Nice. It should feel a little bit difficult. Good, one more breath, squeeze. Yeah, and then go ahead, lift your butt super high, come into downward facing dog, lift the hips up on the tippy toes of your feet. Good, and let the heels softly reach down towards the floor. Good, and push out through the hands. So actually spread the fingers and really push through the mounds of the hands, so that space behind the knuckles or underneath the knuckles and out through your fingertips. Good, and then right leg comes up and back behind you, down dog split. Bend the knee, kick your heel in towards your butt, stack the right hip on top of the left. Good, come up on your left fingertips, please. So you're balancing there. Nice, and that right heel, sorry, your left heel is not falling out, it's squeezing in. Good. And then release that left hand down to the floor, please. Send that right foot forward between the hands, lunge. Good, inhale the arms to the sky, high lunge. Nice, take hold of your right wrist with your left hand and reach to your left. Good, so side body stretch. Careful that you don't push your hips out to the right while you do that. Pull them back in towards that midline. Send your inner thighs wider and then reach longer to the left, side body stretch. Good, nice, you guys. Holding that middle line is very, very difficult. Holding that middle path in the mind is very, very difficult. Come back up to center. Good, take your torso forward, parallel to the floor. You can release the hold of the wrist, but keep your arms extended. Good, pull your hips back a little more. Again, widening your inner thighs, but push through that big toe mound of your front foot. Good, now spread your arms wide, letter T, so they're straight out from the shoulders like wings. Nice, and then lift your chest forward and up a little bit more. Yeah, now reach your hands reaching back, almost like you're gonna clasp behind your back, but don't actually reach for your hands. Good, and chest forward more. Good. Now stretch those arms up and back. So again, almost like you would if you were holding your hands, but don't. So lift the hands higher. Yep. Rotate higher and then drop the chest forward and down like you're gonna come into that bowing forward fold and keep reaching the hands up and back behind you. Squeeze the arms towards each other, but feel what it's like to do it without being caught in the grip of your own hands. Good. And then release the hands down to the floor. Nice job. Left hand plants right onto the sky, spinal twist. Remember what I said before class started, a pose is only hard if you make it hard. Good. And then release that hand down to the floor. Nice job. Step the left foot in just a little bit. Take both legs to straight, Parsvakonasana. Blocks underneath your hands. Good. You don't have to use blocks, but if your hands don't comfortably reach for the floor, definitely do. Sway your hips from side to side a little bit. So before you just get yourself into the position that you always do and call it Parsvakonasana, move your hips from side to side. Good. And then come back to what feels like that middle line. Scoop your low belly. Good. So you're rounding into your lower back. And then really pull that outer left hip forward so the top of your right thigh can pull back. Nice. And then keep that low belly scooped. Nice. Walk your hands forward just a little bit more on your blocks if you need. Good. And then do a little cat-cow here in Parsvakonasana. So lifting through the heart and exhaling, softening in. Good. And keep that outer left hip spinning forward and keep the top of that right thigh moving wide. Nice, you guys. Good. Don't lose touch of what it feels like to be in that moment of transition where something is ending. And your willingness to continue even though something is ending and something's going to be lost. Good. And then release the spine, please. Nice job. So release that action. Step your feet back to downward facing dog. Good. Take a deep breath in. Bend the knees, please. So again, dropping the knees almost to the floor. Pull your butt back towards your heels. Good. And then feel a widening of your heels. Feel a widening of your knees. And then a squeezing in of the inner knees. Or sorry, a widening of the inner knees, but a squeezing of the outer knees. There you go. Better way to say it. Good. Now maintain that as you scoop your belly. Push your butt back up to the sky. Good. Let your heels soften down towards the floor, but still feel as though you're pushing your inner thighs and your inner knees apart, but you're squeezing your shins towards each other. And then pull your hips high. So don't let go of that level of engagement. And then left leg up and back behind you, down dog split. As that leg lifts, don't let all the weight fall just into your hands. Keep pulling back through the top of that right thigh. That's it. Bend the left knee, kick your heel in, stack the left hip on top of the right. Good. Finding the reality that is beyond what you've ever known only comes when you are willing to abandon everything that you've ever known. So we say we want to reach for that infinite space of love and acceptance and justice and truth and all of those things, but we don't want to give up what we think we have. Well, what you think you have is on fire. Let it go, and you can have everything. Release that left leg, step it forward between the hands. Nice job, those of you who remember to lift that opposite hand in down dog. Inhale the arms up to the sky. Good. Left hand reaches for right wrist. Good. Lean to your left, side body stretch. So you're leaning towards the front leg or same direction as the front leg. Good. Back thigh stays super lifted, everybody. Nice. Yeah, and then don't let the hips sway out to the side. Hold that middle line, widen the inner thighs, and then lean to your left a little bit more. Good. Really good, Terry. Nice to hear. Good, Lauren. Come back up to center, please. Take your torso forward parallel to the floor. You can release the hold of the wrist, but reach the arms forward, forward, forward. Pull your hips back, back, back. Good. And then hold that position. Take your arms out wide, letter T, like an airplane. Just feel how the different positions of the arms changes your relationship to the pose. Lift your chest higher because your arms are wide. There you go. Now stretch your arms straight back like you're going to clasp your hands, but don't clasp your hands. Good. Just reach. And then start to pull those hands up towards the ceiling. Good. So you're still finding that strength of the upper back and the shoulders, but you're not doing it by squeezing the hands together. Now bow inside the front thigh. Take the torso down, but keep lifting your arms. And keep squeezing the forearms towards each other. Keep squeezing the hands towards each other. I know it's harder to do it this way. Good. And then release the hands down to the floor. Nice. Right hand plants, left arm to the sky. But to feel what your real strength is without being locked into a position is part of what we understand as freedom. Good. Chest nice and open. And then release that left hand down to the floor. Nice job. Step your right foot forward just a little bit. Take both legs to straight, Parsvakonasana. Something else we like to say a lot, be the change you want to see in the world, but we don't let ourselves live the full reality of what we say we want to see in the world. Send that outer right hip forward. Take the top of that left thigh up and back because you've brought that back hip forward. And then watch your rib cage. The left rib cage is going to want to collapse here. So lift your left ribs a little higher. Let your right rib cage spin forward and down. And then scoop your belly so there's more energy going back into your legs. Good. And then walk the hands forward without losing that scoop in your belly. Take your hands to blocks if you'd like. And then cat-cow your spine. Good. So practicing living whatever your favorite ideal is without the benefit of doing it the same way, the same poses that you associate with it or the same actions that you associate with it. And you find shoulder opening without being locked into that hand grasp. Can you find hip opening just standing around? The answer is yes, you can. But you have to abandon the way that you normally do those things in order to find it. Good. So be the change you want to see in the world, be what you want to see in the world, but do it without relying on there being only one way for it to exist through you. And the expedient means, what that basically says is that any way that you will get yourself to do it, that's what you use. Don't choose a path that doesn't make sense to you. But choose a path that's going to, and let yourself use the path that you choose, better way to say it, to find the truth, the one truth. And if something that you find doesn't seem to fit, then your understanding is incomplete. That's okay. Practice more. Good. Release the upper spine, please. Go ahead and step yourself back downward facing dog. Deep breath in. And then bring the knees to the floor, please. Do some hip circles, move the pelvis. Couldn't even remember when the story came into my head. I said, wasn't there a story about a burning house? I had to go looking through boxes to find the book after I had to go look on the internet to find out what story or what sutra that story actually came from. I had to go digging in boxes to find it. Move your hips the other way. But I think this is the thing that we forget, is that when we're in that moment of things transitioning and we say, I don't know what to do, I'm not sure how to embody this. If we're paying attention, something comes into our mind that says this way. Good. Bring yourself back to stillness, please. Drop back to child's pose, knees wide, big toes together to touch. Drop your hips back to your heels. I'm loving the idea of expedient means, that there are many paths. What is the one that is going to get you to abandon the burning house? Walk yourself to the right over your right thigh, please. Good. And then come back to center and walk to your left. And I know it sounds dramatic. The whole metaphor sounds dramatic. I have to abandon everything, which means I'll be left with nothing. It doesn't mean that you're going to suddenly have no things. But it means that your attachment to what's in front of you, your attachment to what you've built or what you have or what you see, doesn't get in the way of your ability to see a truth that is beyond that. That's all. You have what you have. Enjoy it. But don't let it distract you. Come back to center. This is what we're learning, all of us, me included. Is to realize that the beautiful house you live in is burning. So what do? Deep breath in, deeper breath out. And then come back to hands and knees, downward facing dog. Right leg comes up and back behind you, down dog split. Again, remembering that as that leg lifts, you don't drop the weight into the hands, but you keep pulling back and up through the hips. Good. Bring that knee forward and wide towards your right elbow. So bring it forward. Yep, armpits forward. So you're in like a one-legged plank and squeeze it in. Try to find the actual upper arm and squeeze it against that arm. Nice. And then take it all the way up and back behind you, down dog split. Good. And then bring it forward again, this time cross the body. So bring it forward and reach for that left elbow. So cross your body, but keep it as high as you can and still squeeze. Yes. And then take that leg up and back, down dog split. Don't make it harder than it is. Good. And then step that right foot between the hands, nice and soft, no sound. Good thing you guys have your sound muted, because I could see the way those feet landed. There would have been sound. Inhale the arms to the sky, high lunge. Good, nice, you guys. This time take the hands back behind you, interlace the fingers at the low spine. Good, find that same or even maybe a better feeling of hugging those upper arms and getting long through your spine, and then bow forward. Take that bowing, bowing high lunge, taking the arms up and over any amount. But I want you to remember what it felt like to do this without holding your hands. So can you widen your elbows? Can you widen the space of your elbows and still squeeze the forearms? Good, and then pull back so much, so long through your arms that the shoulders have room to rotate. Good, and the chest is lifted and expanded. Really good, Lauren. Nice, yeah. When I said that, all of you lifted your heads, thank God. And then release the hands down to the floor. Really nice, you guys. Both hands come inside the front foot, please. Drop the back knee, and then flex that right foot, drop onto the baby toe edge, so let the knee go wide. And then walk your hands up to the upper left-hand corner of your mat. Good. Breathe there, either on your fingertips or come on down to your elbows. Good, I promise you're not going to be there forever, so if you're making your choice, you don't have to plan to move into this position. But I do want you to hold that middle line. So the tendency here is that your left hip is going to drop towards the floor a whole lot, and your right knee, maybe your right butt cheek, is going to fly up towards the ceiling. So reverse that. Draw that right butt cheek in and down, pull that thigh crease back. So your left hip still has to pull forward. This is true in every single lunge pose. Your back hip has to rotate forward. Good. And then the top of that right thigh can move back. You're leveling your pelvis. Nice. Widen your inner thighs. Pull them away. Good. Nice, you guys. And if it feels completely awkward, because this is never what you do in this position, good. Breathe in the awkwardness. Flex that right foot a lot. Nice. And then if you can, left hand stays on the floor, take the right arm to the sky, spinal twist. You can stay on your forearm, you can come up onto the hand, you can be on blocks, but I want you to keep taking that left hip forward, right hip back. Don't lose that almost pigeon pose of the legs. So keep your hips moving forward. Good. And then release that hand down to the floor. Awesome, you guys. Take that right foot to flat, downward facing dog. Breathe. Nice. And then take the left leg up and back behind you, down dog split. If you're starting to get warm, this is tapas, so good job. Bring that knee forward towards your nose, bring it out towards your left armpit, please. So you're widening just a little bit, and then that squeeze in, like you're trying to get your knee to touch your outer elbow. Good, and then take that leg up and back behind you, down dog split. I want you to build heat. And then bring that knee forward and cross the body towards your right forearm, your right elbow, squeeze. Good. And then take it up and back behind you. Don't make it harder than it is by telling yourself a story about how hard it is. And then step your left foot forward between the hands. Good. Inhale the arms up to the sky, high lunge. Nice. And then take the hands back behind you, interlace the fingers, so find that hold, but do it in a way where you're not getting super grippy, where your hands are in a death grip on each other. So spine is nice and long, hug the inner elbows, lengthen, and then bow inside the front thigh. Take the arms up and over, but start to pay attention to how you can widen your inner elbows, because a lot of us start to hyperextend and lock our elbows in this position. So widen them, push them out to the side, and then squeeze your forearms and pull your hands as far back away from the tops of your shoulders as you can, and pull the tops of your arms forward away from your fingers as much as you can. Yeah. Chest lifts and widens, which, surprise, lifts your throat, lifts your head, lifts your gaze. That's why we say to go to the heart in yoga instead of the mind, because the heart, if it's open, will lift your mind and your gaze. Release the hands down to the floor. Good. Both hands come inside the front foot. Drop that back knee to the floor. Flex the left foot. Let the knee go wide. Good. And then walk the hands towards that upper right-hand corner of your mat. Come on down to elbows if you'd like, or stay on fingertips or blocks. And if the knee really does not appreciate being out in this position, that's fine. Take the foot flat to the floor, but still let yourself go out at that angle and come a little lower inside the knee with your shoulders. Good. Nice. Yoga has its own version of expedient means. They're called the yamas and the niyamas. They're the things that if you can't figure out that whole concept of how do I get to an infinite self, or what does that mean when I'm living a life that's complicated every day, it says, well, here's some easy things you can do. I say easy with big quotation marks. Send that your outer left hip forward, you guys. I'm wrong. Outer right hip, your back hip spins forward. Top of that left thigh goes back. Find your twist. Right hand stays on the floor, left arm to the sky, spinal twist. Fall back into that right hand or that right arm. So again, you can lift open through the chest and then squeeze your left butt cheek back and in. And then move your whole pelvis forward. So again, it's like you're coming deeper into almost pigeon pose. Bring your pelvis towards the floor. Good. And then slowly release. Bring yourself all the way back. Nice job. Downward facing dog. Good, you guys. Slide forward to plank pose, upward push-up. Lower down slow to your belly, coming through knees first if you need. And then on your belly, stretch your arms straight back, reaching towards your feet, but not for your feet. Good. Lift the legs up off the floor for locust pose. So the legs float up and extend. And then drawing the rib cage in from the back of your heart, begin to lift head, neck, and chest. And then float the arms up alongside the body. Good. So again, you're reaching, but there's nothing tangible for you to grab onto. I just want you to feel the experience of reaching. Right? When we say infinite, this is it, is you're expanding in all directions, but there's nothing to grasp onto. It's what it means to be without attachment. I'm not finding myself through a reference of something else. Practice that. It's a little weird mentally. One more breath. Take your arms super wide, straight out from the shoulders. And when the arms go wider, surprise, your chest goes higher. Yeah. And then release, please. Make a pillow with your hands. Rest your forehead on your hands. Breathe into your back body. Yamas and niyamas, if you're not aware of them, they're from the Yoga Sutras, and they are suggestions for how to live a life that does not disturb, or makes it easier for you to find peace within yourself that is not disturbed, even though you're still living in the world. It includes such awesome things as ahimsa, purposefully acting in a way that is uplifting to all beings. Translated as nonviolence, but that doesn't cover it. Such as truth, parigraha, no cravings, greedlessness. Also saucha, understanding your body, understanding what feeds it and what tortures it. Ishvara Pranadan, surrendering to that which is bigger than you, that you can't hold in the confines of your mind. And it said that there's more, I'm not saying all of them, but it said that if we could practice any one of these perfectly, because they all feed into each other, they're from one truth, we would master all of them. So the path that you choose that's yours, out of that burning building, it doesn't matter what the name of it is. But it matters that you realize that the house is on fire. That there's something that is able to be gained if you let go of what you believed to be true. Stretch the arms back, reaching towards your feet again. Back to locust pose. So same pose. Press into the front of the pelvis, float the legs up off the floor. Lift head, neck, and chest, but from the back of your heart, lift up and float the arms up. Nice, long throat. And then hold there, but bend your knees, kick your heels in like you're going to reach for your feet, but you're not going to reach for your feet. But you're going to lift your hands a little higher like you're going to reach for your ankles. And you're going to try and find that upward bow feeling of squeezing the thighs in and drawing the back of the heart up and the chest forward and the throat back. If your head isn't actively drawing back, you're missing a part of you. That's it. Really good, Lisa P. Really good, Alana. Nice, you guys. And then release. If you forgot to breathe during all of that, it's your practice for life. Don't forget to breathe. Downward facing dog. Good. Looking forward between the hands, step or jump your feet to the top of your mat. Nice. And then feet underneath the hips, bend your knees. Please take the arms up alongside your ears, chair pose. Utkatasana. Translated as fierce pose, but also translated as awkward. Awkward chair. Hands together at the heart center, please. Prayer twist, right elbow to the outside of your left knee. And again, I know this is a challenging pose for muscles that don't typically have to work this way. Don't make it harder by telling yourself how hard it is. Get into that feeling of heat, embrace it. Come back to center, don't change your chair, but twist the other way. Left elbow to the outside of the right knee. Knee and the elbow are in relationship with each other. Make it a loving one. Neither of them are going to win, but they allow you to twist deeper when they are working together. They allow you to release something deeper in you when they are working together. Asana is transformative. That's its purpose. Come back to center, please. Release the hands to the floor, straighten the legs, and bow. Good. Separate the feet a little bit wider. Let the knees bend. Hold opposite elbows. Hang for a moment. Maybe sway from side to side. Awesome. And then come back to stillness and let the hands just drop to the floor, still hanging. Relax neck. Maybe take your backs of the hands to the floor so the palms face up. Good. It's all about relationship, right? Asana is transformative and it's about relationship, how you understand your internal world in relation to your external world. And how you make space for things to change. Slowly roll yourself up one vertebra at a time, leaving that relaxed neck for as long as you can. Don't let the mind take over the heart. Good. Nice. Heel toe your feet a little closer if they're still very wide, and then take your right knee up and towards your chest. Squeeze in. And then cross that right ankle on top of your left thigh, bend your left knee, come back to cross-legged chair. Butt goes back. Yep. Yeah. Flex that right foot a lot that's crossed. Hands at the heart center. You can guess what I'm going to say. Good. Can you look for that right elbow moving towards your left, your right elbow moving towards your right instep? Can you find a prayer twist here? Good. Nice, Susan. Good, Mark. Awesome, you guys. Slowly release. Come back to center. Arms up alongside your ears. Yeah. Good. And then as you come up to stand with no hands, hug that right knee up and towards your chest. If you're already standing, hug that right knee up and towards your chest. No hands. Good. Push the top of your thighs back. So push your butt back. Draw your ribs in. Reach longer through your spine. And then extend that right leg straight forward. Press the heel out as you push your butt back. Top of your left thigh, your standing leg goes back. Don't lose any height. Awesome. And then bend the knee back in towards your chest, no hands. And then step that foot down to the floor. Good. Arms to the sky. Inhale if they're not there already. Exhale, bow forward, reach fingertips down to the floor, standing forward fold. Good. Inhale, lengthen, come up halfway, so up onto your fingertips. Extend your spine, and that same feeling of I'm drawing my chest forward, but I'm pulling the tops of my thighs back and pushing my sacrum up to the ceiling. And then keep that length on your legs. Bow deeply again. Drop the head. Good. Like you're doing Parsvakonasana, stand like a seated forward fold. I want you to have the same energy here, that you're pushing your butt back. In this case, it means going up to the sky. That you're reaching forward with your whole spine. Gravity's helping you here. Good. And then slowly release, rolling up the spine one vertebra at a time. Whatever you want to see in the world, you have to embody it in every position that you're in. Imperfectly, because it will always be imperfect. Left knee up and towards your chest. Feel free to use your hands. And then cross that left ankle over top of your right thigh. Bend the right knee. Take your butt back. Cross-legged chair. Even here, can you feel that widening of your inner thigh? So Alana, just the ankle on top of the thigh instead of eagle. Good. Widen your inner thighs. Push your butt back. Hands at your heart center. Can you connect with your hands here the way you did in the beginning when you had all that prana running through them because you had just rubbed them together? Good. It's not insignificant that your hands are touching. Go for that prayer twist. So the left elbow is going to reach for that left instep. So you're turning towards that crossed ankle. Good. Turning towards the right. It's really awkward. Nice variation, Lauren. I like that. Good. Really nice, Alice. Good, Linda. Nice, Lindsay. And then slowly come back to center. Hold the pose, arms up alongside your ears. Don't give up on it. And then as you come up to stand, pull that left knee up and towards your chest, no hands. Good, and as that knee comes up, the top of your right thigh pushes way back. Your butt pushes back and up, and then you draw your ribs in and draw your shoulders back so your chest is lifted. Nice. Now extend that left leg straight forward. Keep pushing back through the top of your right thigh, your standing thigh, the one that you don't think should be doing all the work. Good. And then pull that knee back in towards your chest, no hands. And then step the foot down. Beautiful. Step your feet nice and wide. Please come into squat. Turn your toes out. Good. Elbows to the insides of the knees. Again, palms together. So you have, again, that tangible feeling of I'm connecting to my own energy, my own self, that this is the only reference that I need. In that infinite space, this is the only reference that I need, is how the breath is moving through this body and this mind. Because everything that I need to know is here. It's expressed on the outside, it's reflected on the outside, and if I need to see it out there, I will. But it's in here that the change happens, that allows us to do something different out there. The burning house is not just the outside world, it's the inner world that you have built as a reflection of the outside world. That's the place that needs to be abandoned, stepped out of. Right hand down to the floor, inside that right shin, left arm to the sky. And if that doesn't make any sense, you're like, I don't even know what she's talking about or how I would even do that. Get a copy of the Yoga Sutras, read the yamas and the niyamas, pick one, perfect it. Release that hand down to the floor, go the other way, left hand to the inside of the left knee, right arm to the sky. If you don't want to spend the money on a copy of the Yoga Sutras, you can find them online, I'm sure, or text me, I will send them to you. But pick one. Pick a path that speaks to you. And follow it to the point where you get absorbed in the path so everything you thought that you were disappears into that new reality. Release that hand back down to the floor. Good. Bring yourself down gracefully to sit. Well, I know that was a long squat, wasn't it? I don't feel bad for you. I'm just acknowledging that that was a long squat. Take your legs forward, please. I have a spontaneous crow pose happening, okay? So you could have done crow. Not all of you did. Just saying. A lot that could have happened there. Legs straight out in front of you. Take your feet as wide as your mat, but the legs are straight. Good. And then reach for your feet or your ankles. And please keep humor. We're in turbulent times, we're in difficult times, but if you can't see that there is room for laughter, there's room for hope, there's room for you to still love everything about the world that you love. If you lose that, then there's no desire to leave that burning house, right? There's no desire to go beyond. So don't lose it. Deep breath in, holding the feet, long, straight arms, extend your spine. And then as you exhale, bend your elbows out and wide and pull yourself deeper in as your chest goes wider. So as those elbows bend, don't let your shoulders hunch, draw them down and extend through the crown of your head, extend through the back of your throat, extend from that space behind your heart, pull longer, and then push your butt back. Good. And then slowly release, come on out. Take your feet a little bit closer together so that your legs are right in line with your hips. Yep. So there should still be a little space between them, but it should be as though you were standing in Tadasana, so the feet aren't completely together. Good. And then you're going to walk your hands forward again towards that forward fold, and then take your left hand to your outer right ankle. Yep, so walk forward, left hand to your outer right ankle. Good, and then take the right hand behind you to start, so right behind your hip, so fingertips to the floor. Turn your belly to the right, so you're coming into that twist. And as you're twisting, you're using your hand pressure against that shin. Don't let the foot fall in. So you're pushing your inner shins wide just a little bit. You got it. Draw your rib cage back. Open the heart more. Good. Pull your left butt cheek back. Good. And now the hand can either stay there or go ahead and take it up to the sky. Good. Maybe even reach it over the ear. Nice. So towards the feet. But don't lose that pressure of your right hand, your left hand to your outer ankle. Good. I want this to feel like it's the standing twist, but you're doing it seated. And then slowly come on out. Nice. And go to the other side. Good. So right hand to outer left ankle or shin, that should be, because some of you are looking at me like, what's the other side? Left hand comes behind you to start, and watch what your feet are doing, right? Because as soon as you come into that twist, I guarantee one leg's gonna want to shift forward, and you don't want it to. Keep your feet level with each other, which means you gotta keep your hips level with each other. You gotta hold that middle line. Good, you gotta hold that space of equanimity. No matter how uncomfortable it is. Press into that shin, and then twist to the left, please. Good. And again, that hand behind you could stay where it is if it's helping, or go ahead, take it up to the sky, or even take it over the ear and reach long. Good, don't let your head drop unconsciously. Keep it up in line with your shoulders. Good, do this exactly the same way you would do if it was the standing twist. Put just as much energy into it. Right butt cheek pulls back. Yeah. And then slowly release, come on back up. Beautiful. Bend both knees, bring the bottoms of the feet together, Parsvakonasana. But make it a little bit of a longer Parsvakonasana, so you're moving your heels forward a little bit more from the groin. Good, and then as you start to walk yourself forward, I want you to thread your right hand underneath your right knee and your left arm underneath your left knee. Good, palms can face up here or down, whatever feels the most comfortable to you. But as you come forward, I want the arms to come underneath the knees if they can. Good. So don't cross the arms, just have them underneath, same leg, same knee. Yeah, so Lauren, uncross your arms, you got it. Good. And I want you to have a little bit of that feeling of hanging. A little bit of a feeling of the arms resting on the floor means that you don't have to work so hard in your spine. You can actually just feel the connection of your legs to your pelvis. Hip opening is not just yanking your legs around until they do what you want them to do. You actually feel in this position, if something is stuck, what would it take to get it unstuck? Do I have to move my feet? Do I have to move my hands? Do I have to squeeze my knees up so that there's an actual release, that I can draw my groins down more? Asana is transformative. It's meant to bring you into greater awareness of that inner world that's being reflected in the outer world, and the ways that the outer world are creating stress and tension in your inner world. So don't just do asana because it's fun. Use it as a way, a roadmap of understanding your relationship with the world. One more breath, drop your forehead towards your feet, just a little more. Yeah. And then slowly release and come on out. Good, unwind the arms. Take your hands back behind you, fingers pointing towards your heels if they can, but if they need to turn out for the shoulders, you can let them do that. And then bend your knees, plant your feet. So bring your knees up towards the ceiling. Feet are hip width apart. Good, bend your elbows just a little bit so you can squeeze them in towards each other, press into your feet, then lift your hips up off the floor. Reverse table. Good. So I want you to act like this is bridge pose, even though your arms are in the reverse position that they would be in a bridge. So you're still dragging your heels towards your butt towards your heels. Keep your knees in line with your ankles. Lift your chest. One more breath. Good. And then release the hips down to the floor. Nice job. Sit cross-legged, whatever seat is your favorite cross-legged seat. And then take the arms out to letter T. Take the right arm over top of the left in front of your chest. Wrap the forearms for eagle. Good. And in this position where the arms are wrapped, creating a natural sort of constriction, I want you to breathe wide into your chest and into your upper back. So instead of the focus, I've got my arms in this position, how can I move them to force space in my shoulders? Just hold. Just press the forearms against each other in a loving way and breathe into your upper chest and your upper back. Breathe into restriction. Breathe into tightness. Don't change it. Just breathe, because this is the state that you're in. This is what we avoid in our practice 99.9% of the time. We're looking for where can I get to? Where can I get away from? We rarely are looking at the moment that we're in and saying, this is the state that I'm in. So from here, can you do what is beneficial to you? Maybe it means you lift your elbows a little higher. Maybe it means you bring your hands further away from your face. Maybe it means that you soften the elbows so that your shoulders will soften. Maybe you draw those elbows in towards your belly and round your back. Maybe you do little circles, really good. And if you had no idea what to do until I gave you a lot of options, no problem. That's also why we practice with teachers. But consider that in that moment of here I am, I have no idea what to do. How often does that happen in your life? And then you just jump in with whatever the momentum is. This is what we're asked to look at as spiritual practitioners. Go ahead, slowly release, please. Yeah, take the hands back behind you, fingers back behind you. Come to rest on those hands, lift your chest nice and high, so just fall back onto the hands. And again, everything is only as hard as you make it to be. It may be very uncomfortable to do something that seems so simple, but it's not hard unless you tell yourself that it is too hard. Or it's not too hard unless you tell yourself that it's too hard. Come back up. Take the other cross of your arm, so left arm over top of right. Wrapping the forearms, and again, doing it in a loving way, because you're going to hold here for a little bit. So if you're squeezing with everything that you've got, thinking that if I can just put everything into this one moment in eagle arms, I'll never have to do it again. Sorry. You're going to have to do it again. Or at least it's always going to be an option. Whether you choose to do it or not is up to you. And how you choose to do it is up to you. So can you find that loving feeling of pressing the forearms together, breathing wide into your chest and your upper back, not one or the other, both. Not the one that you like and forgetting the one that you don't like. Breathe into your restrictions. Recognize the state that you are in. And then from there, realistically move. Maybe you don't move. Maybe that's the most realistic thing you can do, is to just stay there and breathe as deep as you can. But if movement sounds like a good idea, then do it. Do circles, lift the elbows, draw the elbows in and round the back. Good. But engage with that relationship that you have with your body. Engage with the relationship that you have with the world and know what it is. Because from there, everything inside can change and everything outside can change. And it still won't be comfortable, but you'll find the will to do it. Release the arms, take them back behind you again, fingertips find the floor. Good, and then just lifting the chest open, open, open. Good, and then walk yourself back up, please. Beautiful, scoot forward on your mat just a little bit. And then bring your knees up towards the ceiling again. Separate your feet as wide as your mat. And then you're gonna drop your knees to the right. Both knees drop to the right. And then walk your torso around to the right so that you are facing the back of your mat. You can come down onto your forearms. Good, facing the back of your mat. Nice. And again, here, if you have a pillow or a bolster and you want to place it underneath you, you absolutely can. So you can rest on that. But it's either your side ribs or any amount of your belly that's going to be turning towards the floor or towards that prop if you have one. Good. Tapas is something that we associate with things that are difficult. The heat, we say, is associated with a practice that is powerful. But it doesn't mean that it only comes from things that are hard to do. In fact, the tapas is the energy that you build that is the willingness to do things that are uncomfortable and difficult to do. But what actually builds it can be simple. It's being dedicated to your breath. It's being dedicated to your practice that doesn't happen just through asana. It's finding those moments where what you are realizing as truth is inconsistent with what you see happening inside of you or outside of you. And deciding to find the way to reconcile them. Especially if it means that something has to fall away. The tapas doesn't have to be hard. It comes from doing simple things with great devotion. Reminded also that there's the part in the Ramayana where Hanuman is in the city of the demons looking for Sita, Ram's wife. And the city of Lanka, that's where they are, is a beautiful city. It's magnificent. It's a beautiful city you can imagine. But it's run by a demon. He actually stole the city, but, you know, there he is. And before he leaves, Hanuman, on his way out, he's captured by the demons, and they set his tail on fire to set an example, make an example of him. They're going to send him back to Ram, supposedly in shame because his tail is on fire. But as he's leaving, he leaps from building to building with his tail on fire, and he sets the whole city ablaze, burns it down. And in that story, we think Hanuman's the hero. What is he burning down? He's burning down a city that is an illusion of what matters. It makes me think, you know, our heroes are not always the ones that look like they are doing the thing that we expect them to do. And if you cheer at that part in the Ramayana that he's setting the demon city ablaze, remind yourself that what he's setting ablaze is the house you live in. The one that you think is your safety and your comfort and your wealth and your enjoyment. It says, can you abandon it for what matters and what's true? Find your way back up to center. Good. With your feet wide, walk yourself straight forward between your feet. Maybe come up on your heels, flex the feet. It's almost like you're in a seated squat, and then walk your hands forward. Yeah, so you're not balancing. Heels are on the floor, butt's on the floor. Just walk yourself forward. Good. Send those inner thighs wide, but squeeze your shins in, so don't let your toes fall out too far. Nice. One more breath. Pull long from that space of your side ribs and the back of your heart. Good. And then release. Come on back up. Set your feet flat. Drop your knees to the left. Walk yourself around that same direction so that your side ribs or your belly finds the floor or your prop if you're using one. And resting on the forearms or resting on the belly. Breathing long through the side body, through the hip. What's interesting, right? This is a simple pose. If you're doing it with a bolster, it's even considered restorative. If you stay here long enough, you're going to feel things happen. And it may not be comfortable. Asana is meant to be transformative. In order for something new to take root in your body and in your mind, something else has to die, has to change. And how hard we grip in that moment when something is about to end or fall away or disappear or become something else, that is attachment. How hard we grip. I want things to stay the same because this is what makes me feel that I am myself, comfortable. Maybe the self that you really are could be more different. And never because this self is wrong, but simply because there's always more. The hero is sometimes the one that makes it very clear that what we thought was true isn't true. Or that maybe there is something beyond what we know to be true that's greater. Can you value that? And don't reach for safety just for the sake of safety. I mean that completely in the internal emotional sense of reaching for safety. Don't reach for sameness, thinking that that's all there is that's good. That's what makes your practice powerful. When you are constantly going through that process inside yourself, that's tapas. Constantly aware of my relationship to the world and if it makes sense with that bigger truth. And if it doesn't, then you know that it's your understanding that's incomplete. No problem. Practice more. Walk yourself back up to center. Good. Stretch your legs out wide. Reach for your ankles or your feet, whatever you can get hold of. Even if you have to bend your knees, that's awesome. Bend your knees so you can find your ankles or your feet, and then push your feet out into your hands so that you have as much extension as you can. Long arms, so straight arms, straight spine, long, long, long. Good. And then as you exhale, bend your elbows out wide. Use your feet as your handholds. Use your ankles as your handholds. Pull yourself in deeper. Good. So some of you are not quite in that wide straddle, which if you're doing that on purpose, fine. But if you just weren't clear that that's what I was saying, go ahead and take your legs wide. Good. Lift the back of your throat, Lisa P. There you go. I love it. I say it to one of you and 4 others, lift your heads. It's my favorite. And then slowly release. Nice, you guys. Bring the legs back towards each other, please. Come on down to your backs. My apologies if any of this was hard and it's not what you wanted. My apology doesn't mean I feel bad for you. It just means I acknowledge that your mind might not be super happy. Your body will be, eventually. Good. Come on to your back. Bend your knees, please plant your feet. Breathing in and out of bridge pose. So as you inhale, you're lifting your hips and stretching your arms up overhead till your hands find the floor behind you. And then as you exhale, you're releasing the hips down, releasing the hands down. And continue like that, inhaling, lifting and lengthening your spine in all directions. And exhaling, releasing back to that neutral point where the floor holds you. Good. And that's important, right? That what you're releasing down to is not just another position of discomfort, is that you're reaching for that feeling of relaxed, neutral. I start from a place that is calm without attachment. I inhale to a place that is calm without attachment. I exhale back to a place that is calm without attachment. And if anywhere in that process there's attachment, no problem. Just notice it. And see what it feels like to entertain the concept, the reality of what it would be like to breathe without that attachment being present. If you let that desire go, what would your life be like? What would it mean? And if that feels too weird and too ambiguous, then you find your version of this is what I want to create more of in the world, and say, how do I embody that as completely in this moment as I can? And if your mind says, well, that doesn't make sense, how do I practice greedlessness in a moment where I'm just breathing in and out of bridge pose? Really seek to understand what it means to be without craving, to not want anything beyond what is happening right this instant. There is never a moment where those big truths are not happening. It's not at this moment it's true and in this moment it isn't. So embody it the best that you can, knowing that it's always going to feel incomplete, imperfect, because it is. But transformation by its nature is imperfect because it's not one thing or the other, it's transition. Next time your hips find the floor, stay there and rest. We forget that this body and this mind are always in a state of transition out in the world. They are also capable of being in a state of stillness in that internal reality. And that's what yoga is. It says you are both. You are the Shiva and the Shakti, the movement and the stillness. And it's the relationship between the two that determines whether or not you are at peace, whether or not you are undisturbed but still able to act in the world in a meaningful way. And undisturbed only means that you don't lose sight of what matters and what's true. It doesn't mean you never experience discomfort. Draw the knees in towards your chest, please. Come into happy baby. Draw the knees wide. Reach for your ankles or your shin or your feet. Good. Feel your low back anchoring down to the floor. And again, if this feels like it's work on your shoulders, I suggest hold your ankles instead of your feet. If that still feels like your shoulders have to pull up off the floor, hold behind your knees instead. Good. And then bring the knees back together. Please cross your right thigh over top of your left, wrapping your legs like they would be for eagle. And then scoot your hips over to the right and drop your knees to the left. Good. So the top leg should stay on top, or the knee that is crossed over should be on top. And if twisting with the legs in this position does not feel good, unwind the twist and just stack the knees on top of each other. Good. Jackie, try to have your knees right on top of each other. So let your hips come forward. Yeah, let them come over a little bit more. Even if the shoulder can't reach for the floor, prioritize your knees and your hips. Story of life. Prioritize the thing that really matters, because you can't do everything all the time perfectly. Come on back to center, please. Good. Switching the cross of the legs, so take the other leg on top, and then you're scooting your hips over to the left, dropping the knees to the right. Good. And if you are on the other side from what we're doing, that's fine. Just make sure you have twisted to both sides. If your legs are not crossed, try to have the knees right on top of each other and slightly up in towards your chest. So level with your hips or higher. Good. Outside of the burning house, there's so much more room for hope. So much more room for love, because it's not confined by sameness. It's not required to stick with yesterday or what worked before or what you think is necessary. And it means that you can find yourself in an infinite number of ways through those expressions of love, of friendship, of hope, of grace, all those things that we crave. But to have that freedom, you have to come out of the burning house. And teachings are there dangling in front of us saying, I promise you can have everything if you just come out. So what will convince you to find that one gate? Come back to center, hug the knees in. Forehead up to meet your knees, squeeze. And then release, please. Take the legs out in front of you, stretch the arms up overhead for a moment, press your heels down like you're doing a full Tadasana on your back. Press the heels down, flex your feet. Arms are up. Draw your ribs in, press the tops of your thighs down. Good, extend out through your heels, pull long through your spine, even though there's nothing to pull you, pull long through your spine. Everything engaged. And then release and let everything go. Feet drop open, arms drop alongside you, palms up. Shavasana. For a moment, let yourself step out of the external world as though it no longer exists. Step away from that feeling of confinement to a body and a mind that wants to stay the same. And if you could be or do and experience anything, everything, this is the time. Shavasana is that. I'm beyond this body and this mind. Very gently bring the awareness back to the breath. Feeling the body become willing to stretch and move in whatever ways serve it well. And as you're ready, draw your knees in towards your chest. Roll to your right side. Take a moment there before you begin to push the floor away. Come back to an upright seated position. Bring the hands together in front of the heart center, palm to palm. Rub your hands together again. Good. Lovingly but fast, meaningfully. Set yourself ablaze, your prana. Wake it up. And then steady the hands back at the heart and feel that heat as it radiates. If we can remember that the world outside of us, whatever we see, we hear, we experience, and however our mind filters it, because it does filter it. And maybe your filters are very glittery and beautiful, but they're filters. So if we can remember that that experience is not the wholeness of truth, and that what we immediately respond inside ourselves is not the wholeness of truth, but there's something beyond all of that all of that experience is the burning house. And if we can go beyond that, be willing to let it all go to seek what is bigger, then that's the practice. That's the freedom. That's what we say that we crave. Everything that we want from this practice is beyond the burning house. And the first step is to just simply wake up and to know that you're in a house that's burning. And it's not your fault, but the house is burning. So what's your way out? Choose a path. Call it whatever you want, but choose it. And embody it the best that you can every moment. No excuses. That's tapas. They make no excuses to turn away from truth. But I can't tell you that. Your heart will tell you far better than I can what your path is and what truth is or what it isn't. The only way forward is to practice. But I hope if you haven't yet thought that maybe it's my house that's on fire, you look around, look inside. There's something that's ready to go. And remember that there's hope. In that feeling of something dying, there is the greatest hope. So cling to that if you need to cling to anything. And close with the sound of Om, your infinite self. Deep breath in. Sliding the thumbs up to the space between the eyebrows. Namaste, everybody. Thank you guys so much. Enjoy the rest of your day. Find something to laugh about because we need it.
Great class. Thank you.
You're very welcome. I'm going to unmute you if you're not already.
Thank you.